I have my feather pattern pinned in place, and you can start the feather pattern at either this point or that point on the points of the first and top feather. So I've put on my needle and thread a row of size 11 seed beads. I'm going to lay the beads down on the first feather pattern until I see that I have enough to cover the shape. If you're undecided, it's better to have one less than one too many beads. I pass the needle and thread through the other point of the top feather, and I'm going to give my needle and thread a good tight tug so I have strong thread tension to hold the bead securely. For the second feather, you're going to come up at the edge of the point of the second feather that's in the interior of the first. I'm going to pull my needle and thread out, pass the needle and thread under the first feather, and then I am going to start putting on beads to start my second feather. I'm going to switch colors so that you can see what I'm doing more accurately. To start the second feather, I have passed the needle and thread under the beads of the first, but I did not pass through the fabric nor through any beads, just wrapping the thread over the first feather. I've now put on my needle and thread size 11 seed beads in a different color so you can see the pattern. I have pushed the beads back towards the fabric so that when I pull, beads will be crossing beads at the bottom of the first feather. So I've put on my needle and thread some size 11 seed beads. I've already taken a measure for accuracy by laying them in place and bending them so that the beads just cover the next feather without excess, and then I'm going to pass the needle and thread through the fabric at the point of the second feather. Pull my thread tension tight, and now when I hold the second feather downward, you can see that we have beads crossing beads. The blue beads are going over the red beads. It's time to go on to our third feather. To start the third feather, I have passed the needle and thread through the fabric at the point of feather number 3 that's in the interior of feather number 2. I have wrapped the thread over the top of the second feather, and now I'm going to push down a measure of size 11 beads so that they're touching each other and they're all tightly packed together, so that when I bend and measure this row, that once again we have beads crossing beads as we make the third feather. I've already taken a measure so I know I have the right amount. Remember, it's always better to have one too few than one too many. Pull the thread tension tight, and that will complete now our third feather. To end the feather pattern, the needle and thread comes through the fabric at an interior point of the last feather you created. I'm going to pass the needle just under that last feather, and then I am going to pick up a small number of beads. It's usually somewhere between 3 and 5 to hold the last feather in place. So I've just put on 5 beads. I'm going to once again push the beads back to the fabric so that they're touching each other, and then I'm going to wrap that short row of beads over the top of our third feather. I will pull my thread tension tight, and I'm looking for beads to cross over beads. There, with a little adjustment, now we have beads crossing beads, and we have just ended the feather stitch. I'll now go to the wrong side of the fabric, make an ending knot, and then come back and carefully tear the paper pattern off.